all those scientists and inspectors that they actually did cut, but they didn't want to admit it, let alone defend it, and so now they've had to reverse it. All of those reversals within the last day. I mean, listen, it's Friday. I'm sorry. I run out of things to give by the time we get to Friday. So sometimes I'm a little more blunt on Fridays than I am other days. I'm sorry. It's exhaustion. But listen, it's not like we didn't know it was going to be terrible, right? This week, after all, it's the 5-year anniversary of Trump in his first term, telling the country that maybe we should all inject bleach or disinfectants into our bodies. Because sure, that would probably take care of COVID, right? Do you remember Lysol had to put out a disclaimer saying, please do not actually inject disinfectant into your body? My God, we realize the president just said to do that, but please do not.
Everywhere Donald Trump goes, he is confronted with the fact that he is not only unpopular, but increasingly weak. Of course, at home, we see his approval rating has fallen to historic lows, while his agenda stalls and he suffers daily losses in court. But abroad, it's the same thing. World leaders have always detested Donald Trump, but now they're making that clear, not answering his phone calls when it comes to trade talks and straight up confronting him to his face in the most humiliating fashion, which is what we saw from President Emmanuel Macron at the Pope's funeral with Donald Trump, in a clip that has gone mega viral, because it is very clear that Donald Trump melted down after the meeting, and we are going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, this meeting that happened between Macron and Trump also took place as Trump was speaking with President Zelensky. So before we get into it, we need a bit of context, which starts with Donald Trump's approval rating on foreign policy at home.
Yeah, it's not good, Kate Baldwin. It's not good. I mean, the trend line here is pretty gosh darn clear. Trump's net approval rating on foreign policy. You go back to January, the start of Trump's term, he was above water, plus 2 points. Down he goes, down into the body of water, underwater, minus 13 points at this particular point. That is a drop of 15 points on the net approval rating since January. During Trump's first 100 days, if this is an audition, he is failing that audition in the minds of the American public. Way underwater at minus 13 points.
So, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance really have clearly miscalculated when they thought that they could look all big and strong and tough by talking down at President Zelensky and siding with Vladimir Putin. They thought that that was the key to their foreign policy success. They thought everyone was getting on board. But clearly, the opposite has happened, as everything Donald Trump touches turns to garbage, including his approval rating. And it's not just folks at home who are unhappy with how Donald Trump has handled the war in Ukraine. Of course, leaders abroad as well. And Emmanuel Macron made that very clear just a day ago. And it makes a lot of sense, then, why he did what he did at this meeting with Trump. So let's take a look at what Macron had.
Under American impetus, Macron says, President Zelensky has made an amazing gesture. He has said, I agree to an unconditional ceasefire. The only thing we have to do, the only thing, I said it again to President Trump when I spoke to him 2 days ago at night, the only thing that is finally President Putin stopped telling lies. When Putin speaks to American negotiators, he tells them he wants peace. When he speaks to the world, he says he wants peace. He continues to bombard Ukraine. He continues to kill people in Ukraine. We are waiting for just one answer. Does President Putin agree to an unconditional ceasefire? The American people have proposed it. The Europeans support it. President Zelensky has said yes. If President Putin says yes, the weapons fall silent. Tomorrow, lives are saved. The international community has just one thing left to do, and America's irritation must be directed toward a single person, President Putin. He must respond to the question asked of him. And from that moment, we will be able to build peace that is fair, solid, sustainable, and...
President Macron is absolutely right. The irritation of the United States, as he phrased it, has been directed at President Zelensky instead of Putin, who is murdering Ukrainians and breaking any semblance of a ceasefire that Donald Trump said they were going to be able to come to, because he does not respect Donald Trump, and he's not going to do anything that he tells him to, because why would he? Donald Trump is weak. Donald Trump is his puppet, It's why Macron is so upset that he is clearly giving all of his support to Putin, while Putin is making him look foolish. But over the past couple of days, Donald Trump has grown increasingly upset with Vladimir Putin, as we've seen on Truth Social. And so he met with President Zelensky today, and that led to the encounter between Macron and Trump. So before we get to that, I want to read a little bit about Zelensky and Trump. Trump questions Putin's intentions after meeting with Zelensky ahead of Pope's funeral. Donald Trump questioned whether Russian President Vladimir Putin wants a peace deal shortly after meeting with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky in the heart of the Vatican, minutes before the start of the funeral of Pope Francis on Saturday. Saturday marked the first face-to-face encounter between Trump and Zelensky since a disastrous White House meeting in February, when the president and other U.S. officials publicly berated Zelensky for being insufficiently grateful for U.S. support and briefly suspended arms shipments and intelligence sharing. The White House has since mounted an increasingly urgent push to strike a peace deal in Ukraine. Now, after that meeting concluded, we saw Donald Trump speak to Emmanuel Macron. And as we can see right here, as Macron comes up to Zelensky, he refuses to shake Donald Trump's hand, although he clearly shook Zelensky's hand. And then you can see Donald Trump begin to get upset. He's pointing at Macron. He's very angry that clearly he was stood up a bit. And there's obviously a reason why. So, of course, Macron is not going to want to shake Donald Trump's hand. Of course, he's not going to want to engage with him until he knows the nature of the meeting that just took place. He probably thinks that Donald Trump has spent another 10 or 15 minutes berating Zelensky again. So why would he want to shake his hand after, obviously, what he said that was so spot on, that the U.S. has, for some reason, been attacking Zelensky instead of Russia in this whole ordeal? But you could see Donald Trump pointing at him, getting up in his face, getting mad that he got stiffed. That Macron didn't want to shake his hand. And good. We need to put this pressure on Donald Trump. It's happening. It's finally starting to happen at home, as we see his numbers on foreign policy just drop down. But we need more pressure abroad as well. And I am glad. And that is what we are seeing from President Macron. And Donald Trump, not very happy with that. But he's also not very. But we need more pressure abroad as well. And I am glad. And that is what we are seeing from President Macron. And Donald Trump, not very happy with that. But he's also not very happy that there's pushback happening all over the place. Like I said, especially domestically, where protests are breaking out against him all the time for the insane actions, not being just taken by him, but by those members of his cabinet. And Rachel Maddow got into more of that in this clip right here.
The Trump administration also today had to reverse itself on killing the crime victims hotline at the U.S. Justice Department. Why did you kill that? They've now had to put it back. The Trump administration now having to reverse itself on killing all translations of weather forecasts and weather emergency statements, because heaven forbid somebody who doesn't speak English might also receive the tornado warning. They've now had to reverse themselves and reinstate those translations. The Trump administration has now had to reverse itself and restore the funding Trump had cut for the largest and most important decades-long study of women's health, credited with saving countless women's lives, changing women's health globally, and saving billions of dollars in the American health system. It is a study that started in the 90s. It has enrolled over 160,000 American women. It is one of the most successful long-term medical studies in the history of science. And Trump just killed it, cut it off midstream with no warning. And now they have had to reverse that. Now the Trump administration has had to reverse itself on its not at all terrifying plan to create a national government registry of autistic people, under the authority of Trump HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who, of course, talks about autistic people as if they are not even human. And now he's going to create a universal registry of everyone with an autism diagnosis in the United States. Are you kidding me? That was his plan. Now he's had to reverse himself on that as well. Today, the Trump administration has had to reverse itself on cutting food safety scientists at the FDA. Trump's new hand-picked FDA commissioner actually went on CNN this week and denied that those scientists had been fired. He said, quote, "I can tell you there were no cuts to scientists or inspectors. There absolutely were. Firings of scientists and inspectors cut from food and drug safety labs all across the country, including, I should mention, from the veterinary division of FDA, where what they were working on was the bird flu. He didn't even know, oh, they haven't been cut. Now they've quietly started reinstating all those scientists and inspectors that they actually did cut, but they didn't want to admit it, let alone defend it, and so now they've had to reverse it. All of those reversals within the last day. I mean, listen, it's Friday. I'm sorry. I run out of things to give by the time we get to Friday. So sometimes I'm a little more blunt on Fridays than I am other days. I'm sorry. It's exhaustion. But listen, it's not like we didn't know it was going to be terrible, right? This week, after all, it's the 5-year anniversary of Trump in his first term, telling the country that maybe we should all inject bleach or disinfectants into our bodies. Because sure, that would probably take care of COVID, right? Do you remember Lysol had to put out a disclaimer saying, please do not actually inject disinfectant into your body? My God, we realize the president just said to do that, but please do not. That was 5 years ago this week. We've had time to settle into what it's like to have Donald Trump in a position of power, right? So it's not like we didn't know it was going to be terrible. And it is terrible. He really did have a judge arrested today. And we will have more on that in a moment. But that wasn't all. I mean, today we learned that Trump is killing off the federal funding for Narcan. Narcan, the anti-overdose miracle that has literally saved hundreds of millions of American lives in the last few years. There are hundreds of thousands of Americans who are alive today who would not be alive without Narcan. It is a miracle that saves people from overdose. And Trump, in his first term, bragged and bragged and bragged about how much his administration supported Narcan and how much they'd done to make sure everywhere in the country could get Narcan. Now he's killing it off and killing off programs to combat opioid addiction at the same time. Trump really is completely zeroing out, completely eliminating Head Start everywhere in the country because, God forbid, American kids can go to preschool, because that's a terrible thing. Complete termination of that 60-year-old program. Trump really is killing off Meals on Wheels because, heaven forbid, old people and disabled people and people with mobility problems get meals delivered to them and somebody to check in on them. They're getting rid of the agency that runs that. Trump has already fired half the staff from that agency, and Trump has closed all 10 of the regional offices that oversee Meals on Wheels because Donald Trump is against Meals on Wheels for some reason. This was 2 days ago in Morgantown, West Virginia. People out protesting against Trump firing nearly everyone. 85% of people at NIOSH, the Occupational Safety and Health Agency that oversees coal mines. People out in West Virginia protesting that 2 days ago. Trump has cut the Mine Health and Safety Administration and the agencies that serve coal miners. And West Virginia is up in arms about it. We knew it was going to be bad, and it is bad. But the American people, God bless them. God bless us. The American people is under no illusions about it. And the American people is very broadly and now very consistently and very, very affirmatively against what Trump is doing. Even the stuff that he thinks you'll like, that he says for political effect, the American public is resoundingly saying no to all of it. And they're saying no in the polls, and they are saying no in the streets. And that, in the end, with the courts, that's going to be the only thing that matters.
It has never been more important to use our voices and to use our agency to communicate our opposition to this administration. Maxwell Frost said it recently. We are not a minority party. We are an opposition party. Our movement is in the majority of Americans who want to see an opposition to the illegal and immoral actions of this Trump administration. And that's what we're going to be calling out on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, And if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you.